I grew up through the 50s and 60s. There was only three networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS. And I don't remember any television show characters that I could identify with entirely. Certainly no characters being trans. Those types of characters were not even around.
There's definitely nothing on TV. There's nothing that I'm going to find in the movies to relate to. And so you get this attitude like, it's you're alone and it's you against the rest of the world.
Come along, Mildred dear.
I remember Elton Burrow doing drag. It was really kind of ridiculous.
At the beginning, when it was straight guys doing it, it was burlesque. They were making fun of women.
George! So this is what George does behind my back.
Look, Ranger.
Oh, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You. Barefoot hussy, you.
For a lot of that stuff, the humor of it eluded me completely.
What is your definition of love?
Love is a feeling you feel when you're about to feel a feeling you never felt before.
They used this portrayal of us in a humorous way for them, but not humorous to me. So it was a hurtful thing. In the early 60s, there wasn't a trans community per se at that time. Any of us primarily were considered drag queens. Everybody liked drag queens because they performed in shows, and it was, oh, yay for you, go good, honey, as long as you go backstage and take that shit off. Well, my community, we're not going to go in the back and change into some male attire. We don't have any male attire. I'm not a drag queen. I don't want to do this shit on weekends at a bar. I live in this role, you know what I mean?
Trans representation on television was almost non-existent in the 50s and 60s. When scripted television included characters who were transgender or gender nonconforming, they were almost always villains.
Stella, you're such a pretty nurse.
But in 1975, the procedural drama Medical Center featured a transgender character undergoing her transition in a two-part special episode. Actor Robert Reed, best known as Mr. Brady in the Brady Bunch, played Dr. Pat Caddison in an Emmy-nominated performance. And then in 1977, television audiences were forced to reconcile stereotypes with a real person.
I remember all the coverage of Renee Richards in the 70s. Now that's when I was a lot more aware of myself and who I was, and I was captivated by that.
Richards, who had a sex change operation 2 years ago, wore gold earrings and lace panties for a first-round match against Virginia Wade.
Initially banned from playing women's tennis because she was trans, Renee Richards sued the U.S. Tennis Association and won, becoming the first trans athlete to play in the U.S. Open.
It was hard to see what they put her through, but it was amazing to see her stick with it. And I felt that it gave the community a sense of pride in what she was doing, that we could take her strength from that.
The same year that Renee Richards became a household name, transgender characters emerged on primetime on two shows, both developed by Norman Lear.
My grandmother used to have the Jefferson on all the time. I think she wanted to educate her kids as well as the ones that were behind her kids, her grandchildren, to, know that we can strive.
On October 1st, 1977, the Jeffersons introduced a transgender guest character named Edie Stokes.
George's buddy in the Navy, Eddie. Eddie comes back, and Eddie is now Edie. And they would play jokes on each other. So George thinks it's a big joke.
Things were a little off, and you were like, what does this mean? Like, they cast a cis woman to play trans. and they didn't have the proper wording.
Are you one of those guys that likes to dress up in women's clothes?
Transvestites?
Yeah, one of them.
No.
Good.
But I still think it was a step forward to people seeing us as the people we are.
It's hard for people to accept what I've done. I have a job I enjoy, a place of my own. I feel good about myself. George, for the first time in my life, I'm really happy.
This was someone George knew and someone he loved. But George had that reaction of, actually hurting his friend by running out on her.
Hold it out there!
Yeah, George. You take care of yourself.
Through Edie, the audience saw how transgender people were being treated. But then at the end, George comes around.
Oh, look at y'all. I just wanted to apologize for the way I acted back at the hotel tonight.
George, as a friend, I wish you'd call me Edie.
Okay, sure. Edie.
It gave that character the dignity of saying, "This is me," and asking, George Jefferson to play the fool instead of the trans woman to play the fool.
George! There's a big rat in the bathroom!
A rat here? What's a rat?
Norman Lear also introduced a gender nonconforming character on All in the Family named Beverly LaSalle, who appeared in multiple episodes over the course of 2 years.
Norman wanted that character to be authentic, so he hired Laurie Shannon from San Francisco to play the part.
Do you think it's too busy?
And Edith, of course, loved Beverly LaSalle. Didn't matter what her history had been.
But it winds up that Beverly's killed, and it's a hate crime. It's like the worst possible thing you think could ever happen.
I'm sorry, he just died.
And we decided that Edith would lose her faith in God to see Beverly killed.
Beverly was killed because of what he was, and we're all supposed to be God's children. It don't make sense. I don't understand nothing no more.
Once we had the audience and we had the acceptance of allowing us to go into these areas, then you could turn the flame up on the honesty of it and the truth of it and make it more dramatic.
Ma, if there is a God, you're one of the most understanding people he ever made. We need you.
As audiences were adjusting to the new array of characters on scripted television,